Hey friend, welcome back to week 7 of the Pantry Challenge. If you're new here, my name is Morgan and you are on my homestead here in Wyoming. And I cannot believe we are already on week 7 of the Pantry Challenge. Now, it is already Tuesday of this week. Last night, Sam surprised me and made dinner for us. He made us lobster mac and cheese. So I did not film that. He did go to the grocery store. Remember, he is not on Pantry Challenge, just I am. So when I cook for us, it is Pantry Challenge, but he surprised me and made a super, super yummy dinner. It was so sweet of him. So we enjoyed lobster mac and cheese for dinner last night, and it is already 6 o'clock. I need to get dinner going so quickly. So with that, we are going to make egg roll in a bowl. This is such a simple and easy recipe. And then while that is cooking up, I'm also going to make some overnight oatmeal so that I have breakfast ready for the week. So let's go ahead, get our meat browning. Woo, I almost spilled that. Get our onions chopped up, and then we will get going on this oatmeal. All right, I'm gonna put a little bit of oil down. This is going to be elk, so it is very, very lean. So I like to just add a little oil. And then I'm going to just put this in the pan. And then I'm just going to mash it up a little bit. We're gonna let that cook. While that cooks, let's get our onion chopped up. All right, I just got out a container because this is a very large onion and we only need about a half of it. But I do want to get this onion used up because it has this blemish here and that's gonna make it not last all that long. So let's get this peeled. Now we're just going to dice this up. And I'm going to put a good amount of this in this container. Really good. And then we'll chop up this half. And that will go into our mix. I'm gonna put this half, I'm just gonna keep this half in the fridge for another day. And then I have some cabbage that has just been in the freezer. This was from our purple cabbage that we had cooked a couple weeks ago, but didn't finish. So I just shredded it and stuck it in the freezer. So we'll throw that in as well. All right, let's get going on our oats. So I'm gonna do 2 different variations of these. First, I'm gonna start with a half a cup of oats in each jar. And you can do however much you like. I just find that's about as much as I can eat before I get stuffed. I find oats to be incredibly filling. All right, I can smell the meat's about done. I'm gonna get the onions added in and we'll come back to this. This is looking good. I'm gonna add our onions in. And if you're doing carrots, you would add carrots in now too. I just am not. We'll give that a good stir. And then this is just some ground garlic I have. We'll throw that in as well. Give that a mix, and that garlic is just frozen minced garlic that I found in my freezer. Perks up Pantry Challenge, right? Okay, we're gonna put the garlic on top just so it doesn't cook as quickly. We'll let that cook down for just a minute. All right, that is looking good, and I can smell the garlic, so we're gonna call that good. Next, I'm gonna just add in, well, let's do 1/4 of a cup of soy sauce. And then I'm gonna add in our cabbage. And this is gonna add, whoopsie. This will add some moisture. We're just gonna let that cook down and defrost in here. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of sesame oil and just a tiny sprinkle of sugar, about a half a teaspoon. And we're just gonna let this cook down and get that cabbage all defrosted and we'll be good to go. All right, next I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of salt to each of these. If you're gonna add in like peanut butter or something like that, I wouldn't add in any salt. I'm gonna make one chocolate version. So I'm gonna do just a probably teaspoon of cocoa powder. Do a little more actually. Then to the other two, I'm gonna do a maple brown sugar. That is my favorite. When I was little and had those packages, I loved the maple brown sugar Quaker quick packages. So we're gonna kind of copycat that. So there was some brown sugar, probably about half a teaspoon packed in each. Then just a sprinkle of cinnamon. Then I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of syrup as well to the brown sugar one. Perfect. And then our chocolate one, I have just some mini marshmallows not mini marshmallows, mini chocolate chips in here. But I did mix them in with the big chocolate chips, which was silly. I don't know why I did that. So I need to fish out some littles. Okay, it's perfect. And then to the chocolate one, I'm gonna do like a chocolate cranberry. Usually I would do like chocolate strawberry or chocolate raspberry, but this is Pantry Challenge and we don't have that. So I'm gonna put some cranberries in there as well. Then I'm gonna just go in and top each of these with some milk. You can do oat milk, almond milk, regular milk, raw milk, whatever makes your heart happy. Okay, I'm gonna give these a good stir. And I find these, so back when I worked in an office, I would get these ready on Sunday night and I'm gonna mix the spoon. I don't mind. This one needs a lot more milk. Back when I worked in an office, I would do a week of these on Sunday night and I would just do different flavors. So then each morning I would just choose whatever flavor I wanted and would throw it in my work bag. Then when I got to work, if I got really busy, I would eat it cold and I liked it that way, especially with like chocolate chips, you have that nice crunch. But if I was having a slower morning, I would just take the lid off of this mason jar, put it in the microwave, warm it up, and just eat it out of this jar. And I would just take all my dishes home that evening, and it made for the easiest breakfasts. And they are so darn cheap to make, which I love too, because I would find, and healthy, I would find that I would traditionally otherwise either not eat or I would grab something quick and I don't need to be eating like a giant breakfast sandwich or something. These are just perfect for me. So then I just top it with a recycled lid, pop these in the fridge, and then when I'm ready for them, I will just microwave them. And there is a super cheap, super easy breakfast. And it's fun with the different flavors because you don't get tired of them. Keeps it light. And in the summer, I would tend to do more like fruity flavors. So I'm gonna get these in the fridge and we will wrap up dinner. All right, friend, I like to put just a little of that Japanese mayo on top of my egg roll in a bowl. And then just a little bit of sriracha. And then if I had it, I would put green onions on top as well, just for a garnish, but I don't. I would also put carrots in it too. But this is what we are working with. I do have carrots downstairs, but I was just feeling lazy and wanted to get dinner going. So it is 6:25. And I started at 6. So in 25 minutes, I got an entire dinner made and I got 3 breakfasts made for the week. So that's exactly the way I like to do it. Some nights don't have to be glamorous. You just need to get the nutrients and the health and get yourself all prepped and get food on the table. So that is exactly what I did tonight. I'm gonna go sit down, enjoy this dinner, and I will catch you next time I am in the kitchen. So good. And it really is so basic, but it really does taste like an egg roll. I also, if you have them, like to take the egg roll wrappers, put them on a baking sheet, spray them with oil, whatever kind of oil you like, and then put them in a convection oven, crisping them up, and then you have chips. So you literally get the full egg roll effect without having to eat anything fried. So hopefully that just helps give you a couple of other ideas for fun, healthy meals. All right, I'm gonna go enjoy this. I will catch you next time I'm in the kitchen. Hey friend, welcome back. I am getting going on dinner and it is just me for dinner tonight. And I thought a chicken sandwich sounded so yummy. So that's what I'm gonna make. I just have some thinly sliced chicken here. These are the breasts and I like to go for, I literally buy them thin sliced because I don't love huge pieces of chicken. But they're still a little bit thick for me, so I'm just gonna cook 2 of them. So I want this to be nice and tender, so I am just going to tenderize this chicken. And this is gonna be like the easiest chicken ever. So I have just a tiny bit of seasoned salt that we made together left, so I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit on this side of each of the breasts, and I'm only going to season one side, and then once I get it in, I will season the other. I'll put season side down. I'll use the rest of this on the other side. Oops, definitely won't want to put that back on. And then I have just a little paprika I'm going to sprinkle on. I'm going to be air frying this chicken, and mostly because I just want to try it. I haven't really air fried too much. A little salt. We did put some seasoned salt on top already, so just a tiny bit of that. Just a little more pepper. And just a little bit more garlic. So I'm currently preheating my air fryer to 375-ish degrees. Okay. That looks perfect. Let me grab my air fryer basket. Like I said, this has been preheated. I'm just going to put my chicken seasoned side down. So it looks like that. I'm gonna pop this in the air fryer for like 7 to 10 minutes and we will check it. But first, I just wanna season it just a tiny bit more on this other side. There's our chicken into the air fryer. All right, so while my chicken cooks, I want to get going on some sweet potatoes. So here I just have a piece of parchment paper, and I like to rip it off, ball it up, and then lay it down because I find it just sits so much nicer and it actually like works with the pan. So next I'm gonna add in my sweet potatoes. These are sweet potatoes that I cut up and then just had soaking in cold water and a little bit of salt. And then I went ahead and dried them. I probably let them soak for about 30 or so minutes, and that just helps make them a little bit more crispy. Then I'm gonna go in with a bit of olive oil, some salt, pepper, I really like pepper, if you can't tell. A little paprika, some garlic powder. This is home freeze-dried garlic powder. And then I like to just go in with my hands. These are super clean. I literally just washed them. Give these a nice mix. You can adjust your oil or any more seasonings if you need at this time. And then we're gonna just spread these out. You want them to be touching and overlapping as little as possible, but I'm going for an easy dinner. I'm not gonna make this perfect, and that's just fine. But if you're going for very, very crispy, you would wanna make sure they weren't touching or overlapping. Okay, then I'm gonna stick these into a 425-degree oven, and I will check them every 10 or so minutes. All right, over to the chicken. This is looking pretty good. I'm gonna give it, ooh, yeah, a flip. And we're gonna let that continue to do its thing and cook up. All right, now finally, let's get going on our burger toppings. So I just have a few pieces of lettuce. Those are, I don't need to cut those or do anything special. Then I'm gonna slice up a tomato. I love tomato on my chicken sandwiches. We'll slide that over. And then I have this super cute little onion from the garden. So I am going to cut that up as well. That's why, like I say, sometimes everything in the garden doesn't turn out 100% perfect, but we can always find the perfect application for it. So it's so little. And then slice it up. I'm gonna slice it pretty thick because the pieces are so little. There we go. I just sliced it into thirds. And that's it. We're literally ready for dinner. I'm just waiting for our sweet potatoes and our chicken to be done. Okay, friend, so I just went ahead and cut this chicken so it would fit on the bun a little bit easier. And then I'm going to stack on some lettuce. I absolutely love lettuce. And my tomatoes. I always struggle with like my assembly. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna cut these. I wonder if I would stick my onions under, if those lettuce guys will help hold. Okay, there's that. Put a little lettuce on top. Then I'm gonna stick our tomato on. And then you can top this with whatever sauce you like. I prefer just a little mayonnaise and a little ketchup. There is our chicken salad, sandwich, and our sweet potato fries. I'm gonna go enjoy dinner. I'll catch you next time I'm in the kitchen. Hey friend, welcome back to another evening of dinners. Tonight's dinner is going to be so simple. Cooking rice is the only cooking we're gonna need to do. So here I just have right at about a cup of wild rice. And you don't have to use wild rice. I'm just trying to get this out of my pantry. As you can tell, that was pretty much the end of that. So one more thing out of the pantry from the pantry challenge. I'm gonna give this a quick rinse. And then I'm just gonna throw this into my rice cooker. If you don't have a rice cooker, I think they're like 30 bucks. I have just a little one because we're just a little family right now. They are so easy and so quick, and they just make making rice so simple. You can cook quinoa in them. You could honestly probably cook noodles in them too. I have no idea. I've never tried it, but I love my rice maker. Okay, so we're gonna do 1 cup of rice. And 1 3/4 cups of water. That looks perfect. White rice, just for my ratios, I usually do kind of a 1-to-1 for white rice. So this takes a little bit more water, which means it'll take a little bit longer to cook. So let's get that going. Okay, I have that on cook. I'm gonna set that off to the side. We're gonna get the rest of our dinner ready. All right, so this is gonna be like I said, such an easy dinner. Let's just say breakfast, holy moly. Such an easy dinner. So I'm just going to cut the bottom off of this lettuce. What I am making is a copycat of the Sweet Greens Harvest Bowl. And it's funny, I'm making a copycat, but I've never even been to Sweet Greens. What I like to do when I'm kind of in a stumped for dinner ideas is I like to find healthier restaurants and try to look at their menu and recreate them. So a few places I like to look is Sweet Greens, and then Modern Market is the other one. And I find that those places have generally pretty healthy type of foods that they're creating, and they give me some really good ideas, and they also list all of their ingredients that are in everything on the website. Let me get this washed, and I'm gonna give this a quick spin. But that is just one of my little tips and tricks that I like to use when I can't think of anything for dinner, or I have, tonight for example, I have chicken and sweet potatoes already made up from last night. I did have a chicken burger or chicken sandwich for lunch today, so I knew I wanted something a little bit different. So I started at Modern Market, and nothing was really calling my name there, so I transitioned over to Sweet Green, and I found their Harvest Bowl, which is wild rice. They use kale, but I have lettuce, apples, goat cheese, sweet potatoes, chicken, and a balsamic vinaigrette and almonds. And I have almost all of those ingredients, so I thought, let's make it. And when I make bowls like this, I like to cut my items pretty small because I like to get a piece of like apple, for example, in almost every bite. So I'm gonna just take the time. Our rice is cooking, we've got a little while. I'm gonna take the time and slice these things all pretty small, because that's how I know that I prefer it. And if we're gonna go through the effort of making it, we might as well cook it the way we prefer it. So I also went ahead and pulled out some goat cheese and just stuck it in this container and let it defrost in the fridge. What I do with my goat cheese and also my feta is I will use them for a little bit, and then I find a lot of the times it just becomes too much in the containers. So I just pop the whole container into the freezer, and I just freeze it. It freezes beautifully, it defrosts beautifully as well, and then I just pull out however much I need for that meal at that time. It works perfectly. And that is one of the ways that I like to reduce waste, but it's also one of the ways that I can get my freezer pretty full pretty quickly because I freeze so many dang things. I grew up in a family where we would just, if we didn't finish our leftovers, we would just freeze them. Milk, we froze everything. And so that's kind of the mentality that I have now too, to reduce food waste, is to just freeze a lot of things. So while it's a blessing and I literally always have freezer meals or ready to go things, my freezers do tend to get a bit overwhelming very quickly. So I'm not complaining at all. It's definitely a blessing, but I always do laugh at myself because I'm like, how do my freezers get so out of control so quickly? And that is how. Okay, here I'm just slicing up one of the chicken breasts that we made together last night. Like I said, it's already cooked, so this is like the easiest dinner in the world, but you could always go ahead and air fry a little chicken. And I'm gonna stick that in this glass jar or glass container. And then my sweet potatoes, I think they're a little bit big for this. Well, no, I think they're fine. I'm just gonna throw a few sweet potatoes in here too, and then I'm gonna pop this in the microwave as soon as our rice is ready. And that's how we'll warm those up. Okay, this stuff is ready to go. My goat cheese is here. Let's get going on our dressing. All right. So for this dressing, I'm going to do equal parts olive oil, and this is a nice olive oil. And this is a really high quality balsamic, again, just because we're going to really taste it. I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of syrup. And about a teaspoon or so of garlic powder. Let's give that a shake and we will give it a try. Yum. Okay, that's so simple, but that's perfect. We are done. All right, let's get this dinner assembled. So I'm just going to lay down some lettuce. I like to have greens as the base. And then here I just have some of my wild rice. So I'm gonna stick that on top of the lettuce. All right, then we have some of our apple. Stick that on over here. And then here is our chicken and sweet potatoes. I'm then gonna add a little bit of our goat cheese. Goat cheese can be strong, so a little bit goes a long way, and then top this off with our dressing. And there is our harvest bowl. I'm gonna go enjoy dinner. I will catch you next time. I'm in the kitchen. Hey friend, welcome back. I am getting going on dinner, and I'm gonna make two things today. First thing I'm gonna make is meatballs, and I'm gonna do caramelized onion meatballs. And we are actually going to save most of them for tomorrow night's dinner, but we'll get going on that. And then I have just some ground yak here, and then I have some of our spicy pork that we raised. This yak was raised on Sam's family's ranch, so we're gonna mix the two of them. If you've never had yak, it's very similar to moose, which is it's a very lean red meat, similar, I would say better than elk, much better than beef. It is very lean, and it's almost like a sweeter, lean beef, almost. I don't know, if you ever have a chance to try yak, definitely do it. It is so, so yummy. So we're gonna make these caramelized onion meatballs out of yak, and then I really want pudding. So we're also gonna make some pudding. I know it's so random, but I saw a video, someone was eating chocolate mousse, and that made me think of pudding, and it was just a downhill spiral from there. So we're gonna be making some together as well. So I have my pan heating up behind me. We are gonna caramelize some onions, and these are onions actually from the garden. So I'm just getting those defrosted right now. So we're going to take a while, do that slow process, and we are gonna get some onions caramelized. All right, so I'm gonna put down some olive oil. Caramelizing onions takes a good amount of olive oil. And then I'm gonna throw in my onions. Like I said, these are from the garden. And we're gonna turn this heat down significantly. There we go. I don't know why I have that pan so hot. You want to do very low and slow when you're caramelizing onions. And I would traditionally just use a yellow onion for this, but all of my other yellow onions that I have frozen are diced, not sliced, and I want these sliced. So I am using some red onions. This is actually the last bag of red onions I have from the garden, so sounds like it's about garden season time, right? Okay, I'm gonna just let these sit and cook on, I have this on 3 out of 10. So I have this on very low, and that's exactly how you wanna caramelize onions. I'm just gonna stir this just to mix that salt around. I do find that frozen onions caramelize easier because they're already broken down a little bit from the freezer. So you can definitely use fresh, but I do find that frozen, it's like kind of like skipping a step. So I'm gonna just let these caramelize, and I will bring you once we're there. Okay, so I figured if I have to babysit the onions, we might as well get this going at the same time, because you kind of have to babysit pudding for just a couple minutes anyways. So we'll be over at the stove, might as well get this going too. So I just put in 1/3 cup of, what is that? Sugar. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. I'm gonna do a generous pinch of salt, and then 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, which is a little less than 1/4 cup. It's 1, 2, 3. We're gonna whisk that together just to get some of those clumps out of the cornstarch. Okay. Then I need to add in 2 egg yolks. Okay, there's 1 yolk. Oops. Two yolks. I'm gonna save these and I'll just use them for breakfast. Let me get this cleaned up. Okay, back in action. I'm just gonna whisk those together just a little bit. Boy, I am making a mess today. Then we're gonna add in 2 1/4 cups of milk. You usually want to use a whole milk. I just don't ever buy whole milk. I always just make my pudding with, this is 2%. You can kind of just do whatever you want. Whisk that together. I like to consider this like a lighter pudding because we're not using whole milk. There is 2. And a 4th. Okay, that is it. That's how easy it is for our base. We're gonna whisk this together, put this on a medium lowish heat, and we're just gonna whisk it every minute or so until it comes to a boil. Let's get that over to the stove. Have a nice stir while we're here. Okay. Turn this on and we're just going to stir it every minute or so until it comes to a boil. All right, this is boiling, which is exactly what we want. We want it to come a little more, so the whole thing, like a rolling boil, so I can't stir it out. And what I like to do when things splash is throw a colander on top. So I'm gonna stir this every like minute or so, but I don't wanna stir it too much because it'll get rid of that binding agent. And we're gonna let this actually rolling boil for 2 minutes once it hits that point. All right, then over here, we're making good progress with our onions. Isn't it crazy how much they cook down? So I like to just spread them out as much as possible. Look at that nice gold color. Spread them out, try to get like a single layer, and then just let them sit for as long as you can until you think they're ready to stir. So our pudding has hit that 2-minute mark. I'll put this, scrape that off, we don't want to waste any. I am going to throw in about a tablespoon of butter and 1.5 teaspoons or so, measuring with my heart, of vanilla. We'll whisk that in. This smells so good. Okay, so now all I'm gonna do is just pour my pudding into a refrigerator tight container, and it will continue to thicken. And if you have lumps and you don't want the lumps, you can put a colander down, that colander that we had on top of, or the sieve that we had on top of the pudding while it was cooking. Just run this through it when you're pouring it into the container. That'll get all the lumps out. All right, that is it. I'm gonna put this on in the refrigerator. If you want, you can put a piece of saran on top, and that will just help prevent some of that film that goes on top. I just don't love putting saran on hot things, so I'm gonna stick it into the fridge just like this to harden. And I'm gonna lick the spoon. All right, so here are my caramelized onions, and I'm just going to cut these up so that they don't have like huge strings in the meatballs. And I need these to cool down significantly. Now, one thing that I did do, and I just didn't record it, was I put probably about 3 cloves of minced garlic in the final couple of minutes, and let that toast along with the onions as well. So I have some browned garlic in here too, and it smells so good. Okay, so while that cools down, let's get going on everything else. First, I like to put 1 egg per pound of meat that I'm working with into the bowl. Whoa, why do I always do that? Perks of dog is Arrow loves eggs, so let me just clean this up. All right, try that again. Okay, so there we have our 2 eggs. I like to add those in first. And then I'm gonna put in probably about a half a cup of breadcrumbs. This is just bread that I had in my freezer. Let's see if I can get these bigger pieces smashed up a little better. This is just bread that I had in my freezer that I just literally left out on the counter. Luckily, I just washed my hands, as we saw. Okay, we'll start with that. And then I'm gonna add in some parsley. This is freeze-dried from the garden. This is leaves and stems. And I want that pretty small. And we're doing 2 pounds of meat, so. Then I'm also going to add a little bit of thyme in. I'm a sucker for thyme. I love thyme. Then I also like to add in a little bit of olive oil. If you're using beef, you don't need to. I guess I am putting in a little pork, so we'll have some fat, but because the yak is so lean, I'm not gonna put any, or I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil in. And then I have this block of Parmesan that I wanna get used up. So I'm gonna grate some of this Parm into here. This I'm just gonna be measuring with my heart. And we might do it all, who knows? Okay, let's see. Oh yeah. That's gonna be good. And so what I'm making these meatballs for is it actually is going to be in next week's pantry challenge. When we put these together, I'm just gonna have the meatballs for dinner tonight, and then the leftovers, I'm going to make like pizza bombs, I don't know. I'm thinking of making brioche bread and wrapping it around a meatball. The meatball will obviously already be cooked. Wrapping brioche around a meatball, and then we'll dip it in marinara sauce. So it's kind of like a, I don't know, pizza bomb. So that's why I'm making these cheesy, because I'm not gonna put, well, I guess I could put mozzarella in. I wasn't planning on putting any like mozzarella or anything. I was planning on just doing the bread and meatball. And then we dip it in like pizza sauce. I think that would be so good. But stay tuned for week 8 of the pantry challenge to see how that turns out. Okay, let's get our meat added in. So here we just have some spicy pork. And I'm gonna mix up our meatballs with my hands. I find that is the best mixing vessel, for lack of a better term. So I'm just going to get in here, and we wanna just get this mixed up. We are going to add in our caramelized onions here in just a minute once this gets pretty well mixed. And you don't wanna overmix it because that'll lead to a chewy meatball. Wow, this actually smells really good. But you want to make sure that it's well incorporated. Okay. I'm going to leave it there for just a second. Bad part about using your hands is you gotta go wash these. Okay. I want to add in some salt and pepper and my caramelized onions. I don't know that I want all of these onions. I think that's too much, but I don't know. Okay, we'll start with that. We can always add in more. I'm gonna mix these in. That smells so good. You know what? Let's just put them all in. What the heck am I gonna do with that many caramelized onions, you know? Okay. So I just turned on the oven to 350 degrees. And then at the same time, I turned on the stove top to heat up that pan we were using. And I'm just going to scoop even-sized meatballs, and I'm just gonna scoop them all, and then I will shape them all just to reduce the amount of hand washing. There is our meatballs. Now I'm just going to form them. And I have been going back and forth in my head. I was going to brown these on the stove and then pop them in the oven. Honestly though, they smell so dang good. I think I'm just gonna pop them in the oven and just skip the stove for simplicity. So let me get this cleaned up and then we will get these in the oven. All right, friends, just like that, we are done with week 7 of the Pantry Challenge. I cannot believe tomorrow we are headed into our last week of Pantry Challenge. Honestly, it has cruised by. It has been so much fun, and I have absolutely loved it. So I am going to have leftovers for dinner. I will probably try one of these meatballs as well, just because they smell so, so good. But I will be using those for Monday night's dinner, tomorrow night's dinner, to kick off week 8 of the Pantry Challenge. Our pudding also set up, so I just wanted to give it a quick taste test. It is so beautiful and so yellow. Oh my gosh. That is phenomenal. You are never too old for pudding. If you haven't made it in a while, this is your sign. Go make pudding, chocolate or vanilla. It is so good. What I love to do is put chocolate chips in my vanilla pudding. Okay, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss next week's Pantry Challenge for our final week of Pantry Challenge. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will catch you next week. Bye, friend.